Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Brisker.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
From the annual NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis, we learn the latest on the Bears from General Manager Ryan Poles and head coach Ben Johnson and what they have in mind for what's next for the Bears in 2026. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. We discussed today in episode 210 of the Bears Etc. podcast. This episode is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Taste like Miller Time, Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Glad you've joined us. Tom, the one thing I learned from, and we're going to hear from both Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson in their extended conversation with the Chicago media. Every year, coaches and GMs have the Tuesday of the Combine to meet with the national media, so they did that as well, but I thought it would be more applicable that we listen to the 15 or 10 minutes, respectively, for Ben and Ryan on hear what they had to say to the local Chicago media who are there day-to-day throughout the season. But the one thing I've realized that, it's wide open in terms of what's next. And they're going to do so in a measured way based on the future and what they think they have in this football team. And the phone is ringing. They'll ring the phone. Not sure exactly how it's all going to stack up due to the salary cap and other things. But I know this. You and I both agree that when you have something special brewing, like you guys had in the mid-'80s or late 80s into the early 90s, it's hard to break that up because your personnel were driven to win, driven to learn, driven to believe. And I think I got that from Ben and Ryan today.
Yeah, there's 58 days until the draft, and there's going to be a lot of things that are going to change. A lot of topics are going to change. We'll learn some things about the roster, and we'll have some wide open thoughts and opinions going into the draft. But we got 58 days to listen and talk about a lot of those things. But when you talk about the Bears of the 80s and the early 90s and the collective bargaining agreement and what they have to face now, there's very few similarities between the two business sides of it. However, when I listen to head coaches and GMs or I read stories about head coaches and GMs, they're not going to tell you anything. They're not going to give you any bona fide answers. They're not going to tell you who is and who isn't or where they're targeting in the draft. And so I kind of like it because if I was a GM, I wouldn't tell anybody anything. And if I was a head coach, I would tell you less. What I like to know is that Press Taylor is the right choice for the offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears after, they had that job opening. And I like the fact that, he's grown a good relationship with Caleb Williams and the future is positive. Some of the most important questions are answered already and the questions don't need to be asked. But in these 58 days, we're going to talk a lot of football, a lot of personnel, and a lot of changes in the NFL.
And like we alluded to, a while back, we talked about Matt Feinstein. He's a very important part of this whole puzzle because it is a puzzle. The salary cap is a puzzle, and it's not just for 2026. That puzzle extends to 2027 to 2028 and beyond. And so there's a lot of things that you are working on now that could hurt you later or things you're working on now that can continue to help you later. And I think they would like to take the approach of, you want to win a Super Bowl tomorrow. No question about it. You want to do it right now. But you also have to take into consideration what's coming down the road, and you'd like to have sustained success. That's something the Bears have been seeking for a very long time. It was a stated goal of General Manager Ryan Poles from the day he got the job, and he'd like to get to that point. And I get both sides of the fence. You're going to have fans who are going to want to do everything right now, but it may not be healthy for the salary cap right now, moving into the future. So, we've seen teams do that, and then they don't win for a long time.
Matt Feinstein and his job and what he means to Ryan Poles and the development of working with the salary cap in the NFL, even though it's they're getting a little bit more money each year. His job is so important. The knowledge of how to spend money, where to spend money, and how to extend money. It's an incredibly important job, and I don't think these guys get enough credit for putting together some of these NFL rosters and how difficult it is.
Yep. As Ben said, they try to get the best 90 as possible. Most competitive roster to compete when they get back to Hallis Hall, the offseason wrapping up for the Chicago Bears. But it feels like it's upon us, no question about it. When you said 58 days, hey, we got a lot of work to do to learn about this draft. Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. But what's first, Tom, of course, is free agency. And that is going to be a big topic of conversation. Names mentioned today in both news conferences. And again, you'll hear that coming up here in a moment. But DJ Moore was at the top of the list. Then it was Tremaine Edmonds. The interest in Tyson Bagent out there throughout the league. The phone's ringing, according to Ryan Poles. But, this building loves Tyson Bagent. There's been an investment in Tyson Bagent. There is belief in Tyson Bagent. What they're going to do at the safety position. Will they be able to get something done with some of their own guys? Because the 4 top safeties are all free agents. And then the left tackle. And this is where I want to bring you in right away, because Ryan did, as you'll hear, say it's going to be, a late season return at some point for Ozzie Trapillo. They do feel he'll be back and ready to roll at some point. His future's still bright, but they have questions at left tackle. And then obviously, would you use that pick at 25 to look at an offensive tackle once again? These are the things that are going to be discussed all the way through the 58 days that you just mentioned.
But listen, Jeff, there was more questions asked about Tyson Bagent than there was the left tackle position. And I think when you think of the left tackle position, it's one of the most important positions in football because it's an every down player. You don't get, shuffled in and out. And Ryan Poles finally had to address the left tackle position at almost the end of his press conference with the local media because someone brought it up. But there are a lot of candidates in this draft. But Ryan Poles has shown us that he made a really wise decision about Ozzie Trapillo last year. From Boston College not in the first round, and he came out, and as Dan Rochar and his offensive line staff had a chance to develop him a little bit, he showed that the bloodlines, his size, his commitment to the weight room, his intelligence, his athleticism, his dedication to the game all paid dividends because he has the ability to go out there and be an NFL starter at one of the more difficult positions. So I like what Ryan Poles has been able to do there. I don't think you necessarily have to commit that 25th pick in the first round to that position because Ryan has played the position before. He understands what it takes, and he knows that he has a good developmental staff for the offensive linemen.
How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa Debit Card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. All right, we'll get more of your thoughts after these news conferences here, Tommy. We'll start with the general manager, Ryan Poles, as he begins another process in building the roster the way he and Ben Johnson and the rest of the staff views it in the days and years to come.
There's a couple guys we've got to make decisions on. If that's trade, release, there's a lot of different options or a few options that we could go down to create some space. Like I said before, this is a unique situation where we've got our roster in a position where we have a lot of talented players, a lot of guys getting paid well, and that puts some constraints on the cap. So we got to make some tough decisions. And like I said, when we win games, you create these relationships. There's leadership guys, or guys that were captains. That mean a lot to our organization. But when you kind of put in a corner, that's what the league's meant to do.
Is there a limit how many restructures you can do to push things kind of down the line a little bit?
I don't know about limited amount of restructures, but philosophical things that we believe in terms of not getting to this place where we're kicking the can down the road on a bunch of guys, and then at some point you got to pay that bill. And you don't want that to be the reason why you're not flexible and able to do unique things or take advantage of opportunities with your roster.
In the past, when you've cut a veteran, you've done so before the combine, kind of out of, to give them time. Is this kind of new schedule that you guys are on, can we read into that as to why that wasn't necessarily the case this time around if you do end up cutting the guy?
I wouldn't read too much into it. We just got to go through the process to see what avenue, or what path we want to go down.
Ryan, what was your big picture evaluation of DJ's season?
Yeah, I think, early on you have a lot of new things going on, and there's a lot of, there's one football and there's a lot more talented targets. And how that all works out, I can't tell you where everybody is in different progressions. So I know at some points it was slow. Some moments towards the end of the season was amazing. I think when you looked at the production across the board of all of our guys, it came out to be pretty even in terms of targets and yards. So I thought he did a really good job. I know Ben was very intentional with getting him the football to create opportunities. But when you have Colson start to pop up, Luther, Cole, Rome was going through different things throughout the season, but started hot early. So unique situation overall, but I know we were happy with him throughout the entire season.
What was your tone with him in the exit interview, just setting him up for what he can expect in the future?
Yeah, very similar to the other guys. Went through the season. The exit meeting, we also want to know what they need from us to help them be successful. But real positive conversation with DJ and really everybody on the roster.
Ryan, flexibility. Those question marks, those gray areas on the roster settled in your mind as guys you want to keep going forward, such as Komet or Swift?
Yeah, we're working through that. I feel pretty good about the guys you just mentioned being here. But again, there's a lot more calls coming in on interest on some of these guys. So we have to kind of sequence that out to see how it impacts our team. I talked about a little bit of cost of replacement. So what does that look like? So really, this week is kind of, we know what we need to do, but any new, unique opportunities that might pop up are usually going to pop up here. And then we'll get back and kind of sort it all out and make decisions. But feel pretty good about those guys.
Ryan, flexibility is a word you've been using a lot.
Yeah.
How do you balance that with a new roster that feels like it's ready to win, making a go-for-it move, trading for a big player, sending draft picks away? How do you balance that with the future flexibility?
Yeah, it's just the sustainability. How can we stay flexible and it's both end thinking. How can we be successful? Take advantage of, we talk about this quarterback window. Take advantage of that, but also set ourselves up to continue to win. I mentioned this earlier in one of the interviews. I got a head coach that wants to sustain success and win for a long period of time. I have a quarterback who continues to progress, and he wants to be one of the best to ever do it and win a lot of championships. So with that model, we have to be very conscious of how we put this team together, but we want to win championships now. We want to be able to have that flexibility to continue to win down the road, too.
So you want to do both, but if you had to rank them between winning now versus winning over the next 5 years, which one is it just in a vacuum where you lay?
I wish I lived in a vacuum. But, yeah, you got to win the first one, right? You got to get started. But what are you willing to sacrifice to do that? There's some things that you can do and you all have seen that before I got here. You can accelerate it, and then after, it goes away pretty quick. So we got to balance both. Unfortunately, that's not reality in terms of, picking it and do you want to go all in and hurt yourself down the road? Our mindset is to do both, win now, and then be able to sustain that and have flexibility. It's not going to be easy. You know what I mean? I can guarantee you, we've been really good with dead money. At some point, that's going to go up too, because that's just the nature of playing this out over a long period of time and having tough decisions to make.
We've routinely been told that tight end is one of the harder positions for guys to transition to from college to the NFL, but Colson had a ton of success, Tyler Warren had a ton of success. Do you think there's a greater positional emphasis on drafting a first-round tight end? Considering how it worked out for you guys last year.
I think the impact that they have on a quarterback is key there. Obviously, I think it's unique to have two guys like that start hot like that. I think how they were raised, their foundation in college, their intelligence played a part in that. And, one was with a younger quarterback. The other one was someone a little bit more experienced that was quick to get the ball out. I think the coordinators do a really good job, using that position to manipulate defenses too and create mismatches, especially out of 12 personnel. So really fortunate to have Colson. I think he elevates our entire team and helps Caleb.
I know you touched on the offensive tackle, like what Dan asked you about that in there. And I think you said that you don't expect Ozzie deep into the season. You talked to us at exit interviews. Are you expecting him to come back? Is that an injury that how significant is that for him in the rehab process?
Yeah, he'll miss most of the year, but we expect him to come back and heal from it. There's a plan in place. I can't get into timelines or anything like that. I just don't know. But yeah, we expect him to be back and be himself. But pretty significant injuries that he's got to get through. But in terms of affecting his overall career or next year, I don't see that being an issue.
You talked about best player available, but when you're at 25 and you're going to stack your board the way you stack it, no matter what, does anything shift when you're at the bottom of the round versus when you're can you take a risk on a guy because you gamble on the ceiling, or is it all the same?
Yeah, I think if you look at some late round action and historically, I think you want to just stay disciplined with taking good football players. I think you can take a little risk, and I mentioned this before. You can go get a flashy guy that may not be the wiring in terms of culture fit isn't the right thing to do, so you take a chance there, or it's flashes, or they're a young player and you're going to project this crazy growth. I think taking good football players at 25 and not, I think back to the Steelers, I think back to the Ravens and some of these teams that just were able to put really good rosters together and draft well late. Those guys aren't sexy, they're just good, hardy football players. So that's what we're going to focus on. I think that'll put our team in the best position to be successful.
Ryan, to clarify, do you keep up? It's kind of off the top a little bit. Do you keep up with the stadium stuff? Do you have people texting you, asking you if the Bears are moving to Indiana? How much do you keep up with it?
I have enough to worry about with the football team. Yes, text, random calls of people I don't know how they have my number, to being in Grand Cayman and bumping up in the pool and start telling me about where they want the stadium. So, yeah, I got a lot of faith in Kevin and George to get that done and do what's best for the organization, our fan base. There's a lot of pieces involved with that, but like I said, I got enough to worry about with the roster.
Is that your stock answer when people come up to you at the pool and ask you?
No, I don't say much at all.
What attributes are you looking for from some of these defensive line prospects?
Yeah, motor, relentlessness, violence, explosive, and then I just want to continue to improve our defensive speed. I think we saw that a little bit Green Bay and some of the games down the stretch. I want to improve our defensive speed overall. So those are some of the factors that we're
Ryan, what is the path for Caleb and the efficiency jump that you want to see this next season with him?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to dodge a question. I think asking Ben that will probably give you the best answer to it. Yeah, I'll say with that.
I know you can't talk about.
When you guys were here, you were still getting to know Ben. You felt like you had a clear vision, but now a year later, how much more confident are you in just your processes through this part of the season?
Yeah, really confident. We've had a lot of conversations. He's even popped into our draft meetings this past go-around, where last year putting the staff, he wasn't able to do that as much. So earlier jump on that. And then through conversations with him and DA, just in terms of what they're looking for to create an advantage or to improve a unit, the style that we want to play. The more that we talk and go through and watch guys and have conversations about our own guys, the more clarity we get from what they want. And as a front office, that's all we want to give them is guys that they want to work with.
What's your Dio and Shamar? Two guys who can you just give us kind of a sense of your outlook for both those guys, just in terms of both their injury and then what you kind of saw from them during the season?
Yeah, so Dio was a little bit unfortunate. He was the guy we brought in that we wanted to work inside and outside. And due to some of the injuries, I thought Book was coming along in training camp. He had, I think, a knee injury at some point in the beginning. So we really didn't get to flex as much as we wanted to try to improve our rush from the interior and exterior. But he was coming along. There was a lot of positive things there, both in the run, which I know we don't talk much about, but getting the third down is a huge deal. So I thought he was coming along, and we're looking forward to him coming back. I know he's training in his return to play protocol. Shamar was another one, has flex, that we were trying to find out where he was going to be the most productive, and it was coming along at end, which was great because he would have versatility inside and outside, which is what we want. And so it was a bummer, kind of a freak deal with him and his knee. Both guys are on track, training hard. Again, I'm hoping in the spring, but if anything, training camp will be the spot where they come back. And there's a process through that of playing the game and getting comfortable and healthy that we'll go through. But I expect both those guys to help us next year.
But what's your evaluation of the left tackle class? And do you think there's a starter to be had at 25?
Yeah, I think the tackle position is pretty healthy this year. Not sure. Sometimes, there's years where there's a run where they're all gone. There's a lot of them. Sometimes there's a couple guys that are sitting there waiting for you. So we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, that's a unique situation for us. Trying to determine how to fill that space with what we have. I know, we want to keep Darnell and Jonah together. We got a really cool right side. So then there's draft, there's free agency. What's the cost of free agency? There's re-signing your own with Braxton, and then you have Theo's development. We've yet to put a whole offseason together with Karan, but he showed promise at times. So a lot of different factors that are a little bit difficult to figure out.
Right. To clarify on DJ, is he one of the players you feel good about being here in 2026, or do you have to entertain some different conversations just because of his contract and your salary cap?
Yeah, I gotta have conversations and kind of see what, like I said, the best combination of players we can bring in. We want him here. We think highly of him. He's a great teammate. He's been productive pretty consistently over the last couple of years that he's been here. So I have nothing but great things to say about him. But this is the time now where we have to look at all the different scenarios and see what can allow us to put the best team out there. And I've talked about this before. It's just, there's relationships there. There's a lot there that make it really, really difficult. But he's a guy we want here, but we have to look at all different scenarios.
Would it be on the table for you guys at left tackle with Tooney as a longer-term solution, or was that only something you would do in a pinch?
I would say only in a pinch. We like him at left guard. That's where we like him to play next year.
Ryan, soft tissue injuries has ended up impacting your season quite a bit. I'm just curious, do you view those as more of an individual basis thing, or is there something organizationally that you guys are attacking this all season?
Yeah, so we look at both from the individual standpoint, how they walked into the injury. We also look at it from our performance team, sports science, digging into any things that we can do to change to help. I do think the one factor no one's really talked about was last year was unique in the sense that we had the first week, our first bye week was in week 5, and then we had Friday games, we had Saturday games, Sunday games. We never really had a Thursday game. If you go back to a couple years ago, there's like a really sweet setup that we had was Thursday in the first quarter, Thursday in the second quarter, bye week, the last possible weekend. It was the most healthy team that we had. So I think a little bit of a schedule, a little bit is, you do have a new staff, guys are trying to prove themselves. The output is way higher, which you do try to manage through your sports science. But to kind of sum it up, we look through it from a team perspective, what can we do better? But we have to look at all the factors that could have led to it too, because, just resulting, we don't want to, create some chaos and redo everything because we might be doing the right thing. It just was the scenario and the environment in terms of the schedule might have been a little bit hard.
Just a couple days after the season,
Last one, Dan.
Ben was really emphatic about saying we're back at square one, we're back at the bottom. What do you think was the significance of being so quick and emphatic with that message?
Yeah, just look across the league in the last, forever. The moment you get comfortable and think you can take success from one year and just apply it to the next, you can be in for a rude awakening. The mindset that we have to have is starting fresh, rebuilding the foundation that we had, and then improving where we need to improve, and specifically like where our struggles are. If we have that mindset, we'll be good. If the mindset is we'll be good just because we're good last year, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. The work that the guys put in, our coaching put in, our front office, our whole organization, we have to really exceed that to be even better than what we were last year. There's going to be challenges. I think I said it a few years ago. Something will happen that, we're not planning for, that we have to adjust and adapt to. Sometimes you're healthy most of the season, sometimes you're injured, how you adapt to that. So every season's unique, and I think what Ben was doing was establishing the mindset of we got to go back to work in order to get to where we need to go.
Tom, great stuff from Ryan Poles. I felt he was relaxed up there and confident, and that balance, again, that we speak of. And, we all, as we said, we all want to win now, but we also, you don't want to mortgage too much of the future because of what's coming down the road. Young players are going to want to get paid. The draft, to me, since he said, Tom, long time ago, he wants to be a draft-driven team, there is value in that. You're developing your own players, and I think he trusts this coaching staff to develop players. That draft class last year was fantastic. The scouts, married with the decisions, married with the coaching and the development over the course of the season, was impactful, and I believe he thinks that this will continue. This is going to be a conveyor belt. You mentioned Pittsburgh, the old Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. We've mentioned that many times. Again, close your eyes. What does it look like? Well, he wants Grizzly Bears. That's the number one grade you can get. He wants Grizzlies, and those guys are resilient, they're tough, they're nasty, they're physical, and they're hungry. So I think that could happen.
I'm sorry, 3 things that I took from this. First of all, he's not going to have his sounding board of the last couple of years, and that's Ian Cunningham. He has a new sounding board in Jeff King. So Jeff King may talk and evaluate players differently than Ian Cunningham, but they have a similar player's background. And so I would like to see that continuous development of that relationship going into the draft this year with Ryan and Jeff and his whole staff, for that matter.
And it's really good. It's really good already. Trust me. Yeah.
Correct. And I agree with that, but I like it. But Ian is not Jeff and Jeff is not. They're two different people. But I also like this, that the inclusion of Ben Johnson this year in talent evaluation, because you talked about having Dennis Allen involved in the talent evaluation as well. I think that really helps a general manager, because you know what type of body, what type of frame, what type of different factors you're considering when you're talking about the different positions. And I also like this. There's a body of work on tape of the people you're talking about. Last year, Jeff, when a lot of this was installed and this system was talked about, you had to use references of other teams because you didn't have your own team on tape yet. Now, when Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen, Jeff King, and all the members of the evaluation process in this leading up to the draft, you're looking at your own guys, your own system, your own mechanics that you need to improve or you want to continue to work out. So I think those types of things are super beneficial leading up to this year's draft and free agency.
Now, he also mentioned some of the other injured players like Dayo Adengbo, also Shamar Turner. These are things we have big questions about as well. Yep. They'll be back. But, exactly when will be the question. Will they be ready to go at training camp, hit the ground running, and be able to make an impact to get into week 1 right away? That'll be a big question mark as well.
One thing, too, is going back to free agency. Remember how quickly he made the decision on TJ Edwards?
First guy signed in that. First guy in the league signed.
Right. And so that's one thing that we have to take from Ryan Poles as well. If he has a sight set on somebody right now, that may come as quickly as free agents have the ability to be signed. So, we've learned a lot about Ryan Poles since he's got hired. And so we have to take some of those things into account when we think about where he and this team is going.
Well, one thing I don't think as fans, fans just want to win. So it's fantasy football, really. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care what you got to give up. Just get the people you want. But the cost of the replacements of the people you move on, that's a big process. That's a big part of this whole thing. What's it going to cost to replace the player that you already have? And, that player may be, only marginally better for whatever reason, but they may be younger and less tread on the tires. All these things are at play here. It's not just, okay, I want player X because he's been an all-pro before. And I think, there's a deeper dive here. There's a chemistry thing. There is the coaching aspect of it. Maybe a coach doesn't really like that player, but we love him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Listen, there's a lot of difference to it because this is not a video game where you're just plucking players out and you're formulating your own football team and then you're going to start working them. No, this is the seriousness of athletic consideration, intelligence consideration, how they are committed to the game, how they're committed to the locker room. Because Ben talked a lot about the culture of this football team and how these players help develop the culture. Those are the types of players that you need to continue to bring in here. You can't bring in a guy that's going to divert from the culture that they take a lot of time building up into this point. And when you develop that culture that is sustainable for years to come, that's when winning comes in the big picture.
Yeah, it'd be a real shame if they take steps back in that regard, and I don't. That's not going to happen. Number one, they're not going to bring in those types of folks, so they're going to bring in people that have the spirit of winning, teamwork, the whole bit, every cliche you want to throw on the table. Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. Ben Johnson came in with a smile on his face and a lot of direct answers, as per always.
We fell short of our ultimate goal, which was to win the championship. And so the biggest thing is we don't confuse the postseason victory or exceeding expectations from outside of the building. That is okay to be complacent. It's not. We didn't do enough, and so we got to do more. We got to give more than what we gave a year ago. Coaching staff, players, everyone in that building, we have to do a little bit more. And so when you look at it that way, yeah, we are back to ground zero, and we got to continue to build on this thing. Now, does that mean when we come back in the spring that we're not going to be further along offensively or defensively than we were the previous spring? No, that's not what that means. But yet it does help frame our mindset that we are going to have to give more.
Ben, how did you assess the defensive line and what attributes are you looking to bring into the building, whether it's through the draft or free agency?
Yeah, well, we're still going through that process right now. Just free agency, there's some guys out there that we feel like could help us out. We certainly feel good about some of the guys that we currently have in the building, that they'll continue to ascend and take the coaching that DA and the defensive staff are providing for them. But for us to take the next step as a defense, we do need to pressure the quarterback at a more consistent clip. And so that is a point of emphasis for us. I do think this draft does have some guys that could possibly help us out in that regard. But that'll be something that we got to look at. And it will be a point of emphasis when we come back in the springtime. Just how do we increase our get off to where we can put more pressure on the queue.
Ryan has come here before and has talked about building from the inside out on the D line. Is that still the priority, or do you think edge is a bigger priority with this class? How do you see it?
Yeah, we just need good football players all across the board. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I don't mind so much if that's interior rush. Oh, sure, we'll take it. If that's the guy that's on the edge fits the bill, sure, we'll take that as well. But I'm not going to pigeonhole us into saying that we have to build this roster. Ryan's not going to do the same thing either. We just want to find some really good football players that love to play the game, that love to compete, that want to win football games, and we'll figure it out from there.
What are the advantages Caleb has being in the offseason in his second year with you in terms of knowing what you want, and also how much growth can be made because it's not new anymore. It's focusing in, I guess.
Yeah, well, we saw enormous growth over the course of the season. I keep going back to what 7-on-7 looked like at the end of the year versus what it looked like to start the year. A drill as simple as that, and yet you see him look so much more comfortable going through some of those same plays. A lot of it was like riding the bike for the first time with some of these concepts. You just hadn't seen it, and you get thrown a different coverage each and every time. Now you can accelerate your vision a little bit more, and that's what he's learned to do. And that's where I'm really confident the direction he's going. I'm excited for him. I think he's going to be able to look at some of these cut-ups from the self-scout and look at what he could have done a little bit better. I think what's most encouraging to me is something happened at the end of the year where I showed him one thing on tape, and Didn't even think it would come up in the next game, and yet it did. And then he threw the ball to the exact spot that I would have wanted him to throw the ball to. Now, the result of the play wasn't what we wanted to for other reasons, and yet something as simple as that, I'm like, holy cow, if this guy can take one little nugget that we talked about the week prior and we really weren't emphasizing, and yet be able to apply that real time in a game, man, he's really going to ascend quickly. And so I'm looking forward to it. I really do think this next offseason we'll see significant strides.
Ben, as you push for greater efficiency from him, what's the next step for him in becoming more efficient at the position?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's no question that there'll be some throws last year that he needs to complete or give a more catchable ball at a higher rate, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. We as a coaching staff take a lot of pride in trying to get the primary guy open, and if we are able to do that, he's going to come through and he's going to make that throw. And then if we can't do that for him from a coaching perspective or play calling perspective, then he makes us right, and that's where his magical talent, can be the ultimate eraser for us and fixer. So it's the balance between the two, and like I said, I'm looking forward to mechanically. He was learning some different things with his footwork. It actually looked more comfortable to him than I would have thought year one, and yet I really think a full off season of really drilling that down home is going to help him be more accurate here going forward.
How much did he change you as a play caller? Maybe not just as a play caller, but also like setting up a game plan throughout the week?
Yeah, significantly. I mean, everything you do is driven by the players that you have, and so not just him, but all of our perimeter players, our running backs, our O-line. I think about plays with them in mind, certainly, and so it's all the above. You don't want to put the onus on just one guy to where he's got to carry the burden for the entire offense the course of the game. You do want them to be able to know when their number's called, hey, we really need you to come through in this moment because this is where you got the big hat. You got to we need you on this, and I think the guys throughout the offense, they answered the bell in that regard.
Ben, with DJ Moore, his name is out there as kind of having a little bit of an uncertain future. We know the statistics that he had. What was his value to your offense this past season? Yeah, it was immense.
He probably knew all the roles of the receivers better than anybody else we had in that room. X, Z, F, it really didn't matter. He was a guy we knew we could count on. If guys go down, he could step in. There really wasn't anything we'd shy away from in terms of the route tree that he could or could not do. And so I feel like the versatility is something that screams at you, the intelligence screams at you, and then as Ryan alluded to in our last press conference, just the toughness, the durability. When you talk about 17-plus game season, that's where a player like that is really, really valuable.
Ben, how difficult was it to pick and see among the candidates that you had, particularly?
Say it again.
How difficult was it for you to pick an offensive coordinator among the candidates that you had on staff, and what drew you to the press stage?
Yeah, no, I think. Let me start by saying this. You lose two really good coaches in Eric Bieniemy and Declan Doyle. I can't say enough about either one of those two guys and the contributions that they made last year in their own way. I think we've been very, very much a proponent of wanting guys to move on, and if they find another role or another job that they feel like they want to take a shot at, then I'm all for it. And I think both those teams, both Kansas City and Baltimore, are getting two really phenomenal people and football coaches. But when it comes to replacing them, I felt strongly about Eric Stoodsville. He's a guy I've worked with in the past. I think he'll do a great job in our running back room and bring some different things to the table. For offensive coordinator, we went around and we interviewed outside of the building. Certainly we have a number of guys in the building that I feel very strongly about as well, not just press. I think when you put together a staff, that's really what you want do is you want to see, hey, can I picture the young coaches becoming position coaches? Can I picture some of the position coaches becoming coordinators and then possibly even head coaches one day? And I believe we've got some guys that fit that mold on really both sides of the ball. And so I'm fortunate to have that on this staff. Press in particular was a guy that checked all the boxes of what I was looking for. He did a phenomenal job last year. He's very smart, very detailed. Did some things behind the scenes that people probably don't realize, and yet I know he's got the respect of these players.
What are the biggest things you need from your OC as the play caller? What do you want from your OC?
Well, yeah, I'm not in every single staff meeting. I'm not in every single offensive meeting with the players. I'm in as many of them that I can attend that time allows, and so it's just the understanding that nothing skips a beat when I have to leave the room. And Press has been there. He's done that. That's the good thing about it. And I hold him in really high regard. He's done a phenomenal job in the role last year as pass game coordinator, and I've got nothing but immense confidence that he'll do a great job here as a coordinator as well.
We talked to Ryan about the balance of the short-term versus long-term roster construction and some of the salary cap situations. From just your coaching standpoint, I know Ryan handles a lot of that, but how do you look at it? How do you kind of approach this offseason and the decisions that you made when you want to win now, but you also want to think about the long term as well?
Yeah, no, I think that's a balancing act, and that's where Ryan and Matt Feinstein, Jeff King, those guys, they do a great job keeping the big picture in mind of what we're trying to do, short term and long term, and balancing act. And so you might have an off the wall idea, and you kind of got to talk it through of what the consequences might be if you went down that road. And so that's this time of year. You're trying to, as I've been saying all day long, trying to accumulate the best 90-man roster you possibly can. We need to be as competitive as it's ever been so that we take the next step. And I know Ryan and I see our current roster, the guys that are under contract, very much in the same lens, and we're totally committed to whatever it takes to get better.
Ben, what did you take away from
last one here, Jason?
What did you take away from watching Seattle this year? Ryan talked a year ago about watching Philadelphia and how they had waves of defensive linemen coming in. Was there anything from Seattle that stood out to you as you kind of track the way the league is going and what you're up against?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had a lot of respect for that particular defensive philosophy for a long time. Back Baltimore to, I know he was at Michigan for a little bit, but I got to see it up close and personal, and I think he does a heck of a job. He's a really good play caller on the defensive side of the ball. Anytime you're able to stop the run, playing too high defense, I think you got something good going. And yet they were still able to rush the quarterback with only 4 as well. And so I think they did a great job. John Snyder has done a great job with that roster. I haven't gone back and watched that particular game, but from afar, immense amount of respect for what they did this year.
All right, I always ask you, what are your takeaways on Ben? Well, what note-taking did you do?
Ben is the type of guy that, he is going to go up there and talk about the developing relationship between he and Caleb, the strides that he's able to watch Caleb make throughout the season, the impression that he made in his accuracy on certain throws that he knew that were going to be super difficult, but his mental recall was such that you insert it and he's able to enact it. But I also know he knows that Caleb is just scratching the surface of where he's going, what he's ultimately going to be, how impactful he can be on this offensive roster and the roster as a whole. But when you talk about that relationship, and he talked about it, how important it is to have a head coach that is the offensive play caller in the continuing long-term development of their relationship. And I always agree with that myself, and it was nice to hear him say that.
Yep, he says he thinks Caleb will ascend quickly with significant strides here in 2026 and beyond. And, he was asked a lot of questions. One of the big topics is DJ Moore, at least from the media side of things, but he really put his value at an immense level with that team last year. We all know the toughness of DJ. That is huge. He's never going to take himself off the field. He is going to be there no matter how many bumps he gets. He knew every position. He was asked to play every position at receiver in a very complicated offense. So, Yeah, it's a comfort position when you got a guy, a veteran like that, who is as durable and reliable and ready to play each and every week that you can count on. And I was walking through the main area where they have all the Radio Row and stuff, and one of the guys asked me from one of the other teams, man, let me get this straight. Now you got Caleb Williams, who's becoming a star right before our eyes. You got Colston Loveland. You got Cole Kmet. You got DJ Moore. You got Luther Burden III. You got Roma Dunze, who's just scratching the surface. And wait, you got DeAndre Swift had himself a great year. And you got Kyle Monungai, and the offensive line has 3 All-Stars on it and a young player in Darnell Wright that's coming on strong. And, wow, you guys have everything. And I'm sitting back and go, well, you never have everything. But, boy, when you take a step back, the Bears have a lot.
Right. But, they also have Jade Walker. And here's a guy that I think he's got a big upside in terms of size and where his career can go. But now let's take just a snippet from Ryan Poles. Because when we are talking about DJ Moore, if DJ Moore had 160 catches and everybody else had 40 to 70, we would be talking differently about deal making. Because when Ryan Poles brought it up, he, with Cole and Colston and Luther Burden and DJ and Roma Dunze, even with his injury issues, all these guys had a similar amount of catches. So there wasn't one guy that had just an overwhelming amount of statistical support to the offensive side of the ball. And I think that's where it's interesting when you're talking about a guy as respected and as valuable as DJ is, that, there's a lot of other guys that had a hand in offensive success.
And it was intentional. Got to feed everybody. Everybody wondered how you're going to do it, and it was almost even across the board. They did a great job in the end of getting the ball to everybody, and everybody had a hand in all those wins, dramatic and otherwise. Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears. And you know what else stuck out with me from Ryan is not only did they go through the end of the season meetings, the car wash of meeting with Ben and, telling them what they need from the player and what their offseason, I'm sure, hey, we want you at this weight, whatever, this is what you got to work on, but what do you need from us? Now, I would love to hear the answers to those questions from some of those players. I think that's a wonderful way to approach it. It keeps everybody invested. How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? Well, with the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. All right, so we mentioned offensive coordinator promotion for Press Taylor, a guy I respected. Love that guy. Tremendous knowledge, tremendous background, and that will help. It's not just a help. It's a very important Ben Johnson's week to help him. He can't be in every meeting. He can't be at every offensive meeting. He can't be in he tries, but he can't. So they need to be exactly on the same page. So there's trust there. But the addition of Eric Stuttsville, Eric is a terrific running backs coach, and I know Eric Bieniemy had a big impact on that running game and that offense, but Eric will do the same. And there's knowledge there with his time in Miami. Ben Johnson got to know Ben got to know Eric Stuttsville, and I just think this is a perfect replacement for Eric Bieniemy. He'll grow the position in a way maybe that Eric didn't, and add some new wrinkles to the equation.
Well, you go look at Eric Stuttsville throughout his career in the NFL and look at how long he was with each team.
Yeah.
He wasn't a one-and-done type of guy. He was there for 4, 5, 6, and 7 years. And I think that just shows you how respected of a position coach he is. He has that interim head coach tag in his resume
Denver.
as well.
Yeah.
And, he's a heck of a guy. And I think that he's going to be an asset to the coach meeting room and on the practice field as well as anybody that you could have hired. And I had a great deal of respect for Eric Bieniemy from the time he came here and, through his Chicago Bear tenure.
Yeah, 1997 when I rolled in, he rolled in, and it was great conversations football-wise, just watching you two guys talk about football as well. Also, we should say this, too, about the defense, because we seem to be very centrically focused on the offense because it's Ben Johnson. He's the offensive coordinator, head coach, but the need for speed. And we heard that was something that Dennis Allen had talked about even before these guys took the field. He's looking for fast guys on defense. And Ryan Poles, we got to increase our defensive speed to close that gap on teams that do have speed offensively and consistent pass rush where it's going to get home and make things miserable for an offense.
Yeah. And how do you want to go about that business? Everybody seems so fixated on edge rushers, but it takes more than that. You have to have powerful, big guys, immovable objects that can get penetration on the inside of your defense. So you get yourself into pass rushing down in distances. So I think there's different, the Bears could draft on every single level of this defense, and it wouldn't be out of bounds.
Yeah.
They can go first level, second level, and third level. So depending upon the evaluation process of where they're at with that 25th pick, I think Ryan Poles and his staff will do a good job of understanding what player can help them the most amount of snaps, the quickest. And you got to take all that stuff into evaluation.
Well, one of the big things is a depth of the positions, and do you take best position available? I like this idea that if you're heavy in a spot, but there's a player there that you project to be a really impactful player, you take him.
Right.
You just take him. He brought up the Loveland Komet. That's a perfect comparison. We can go down the list of players around the league and teams that do that. You think that the Lions absolutely needed Jahmyr Gibbs at that? No, they took the best player. And if you got a guy that's going to be an impact player, Tommy, take him.
That's what I like thinking inbounds, basically, because you have DJ and you just drafted Roman Dunze, but then you go out and get Luther Burden. And listen, as complimentary as I've been about him all season, again, I still think he's the most difficult tackle with the ball in his hands. So just because you got Rome and you got DJ doesn't mean you can't go out there and get Luther Burden. So I think there's evidence of that in Ryan's background, that you can go out and stack good players at a position.
And it sounds like from Ryan's perspective and other people I've talked to is if you're going to look at the defensive line, there are more opportunities to hit at the edge position than the interior defensive lineman in this draft. So again, it's a numbers game, right? So if you have a guy that is like your last guy on your list of interior defensive linemen you're willing to draft high, and he's there, maybe you do grab him there, or do you just go and take edge rushers because they're deeper at this point?
Well, one thing about edge rushers, when you're talking about how they can help your defense the most, Micah Parsons, he's an edge rusher, but he lines up on the inside in the middle of the defense. He's deployable, as you like to say. So when you're talking about an edge rusher, you're not only talking about a guy that's going to get in the stance over the tackle or tight end. You're going to get a guy that is maneuverable, and then you can have different defensive fronts that may be confusing to your opponent, or you may be able to take advantage of a vulnerability because of size, speed, and strength of an edge guy that's movable.
All right, Tom, I think we hit all the key points. Let me ask you what you'll be watching when the workouts begin. What is your analysis when you are watching on TV of the Combine, and what are you looking for? What do you like to see?
I'm going to hold that to myself because it's one of my Tom's thoughts for the radio show on Thursday.
Okay, that's fair.
And I don't want to give it away.
Fine.
And if I do, it will.
But let me ask you this. Do you get excited when you see the new crop every year?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it just because I've been there. I know the nerves that they're going through. I know what it's like when you finally I'm at the 83 Combine, and hey man, there's John Elway, there's Jimbo Covert, there's Dan Marino, there's Eric Dickerson, so I'm thinking like I'm that little kid. And so all these guys that are coming together for the very first time, and you're sitting outside a waiting room going to get a medical examination. You're sitting outside a meeting room waiting to go in and see leaders of a team that you hear about that you've been watching on TV. It's the most exciting time in their lives. I don't care what they can downplay it. It's not the case. And for going to the combines that I had to go through, each one was as exciting as the next.
Well, I'm glad you're still excited about it. That tells me your love of the game is still there, Tommy.
I love it, man. I love it. And I'm glad they put it on TV because you sit there and you have a chance to focus, and then they replay it and you can watch it again. And there's details of what they're going through that you pay attention to.
Funny thing is, I got asked more today about, hey, is Thayer here? And I go, no. That's not his bag. He likes the comfort of his home to watch it and do his analysis, and he doesn't have to drive here. But, yeah, you're getting a lot of, hey, where's Tom? Where's
I know
Tom?
That you walk down Radio Row and you're parade waiting.
No,
you're
I'm not.
You're waving to this guy. You're waving to that guy. Oh,
I will say this, though. There's a lot of love for the Bears. There's big talk about the Bears, and in particular Ben and Caleb, because when you have a head coach and you have a quarterback, you've got a chance. And they recognize that. These teams recognize that. So I got asked a lot of interesting questions. I'll save that for our Bears Weekly radio show as well. Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. And every sip of Blue Moon's Belgian-style wheat ale, crafted with Valencia orange peel and coriander, is a winning drive for your taste buds. Plus, Blue Moon Light is brewed with real tangerine peel at only 95 calories. Blue Moon, made brighter, and a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. That's going to wrap us up. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.